Hello, folks, and welcome back to another edition of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Tuesday, November 2nd, and we've got plenty to talk about today. Bitcoin not doing too much, but there is still plenty of action in the space. Polkadot making new all-time highs. Love to see it. Also, the NFT speculation continues, and our friend CJ Reichel actually journeyed into the metaverse last night. So excited to hear about that. Excited to hear
Several different metaverses.
So CJ did quite a bit of traveling last night, and excited to hear about what he thinks of these various NFT plays because they really are all the rage right now. But Doc, great to have you back. How are you doing? Looks like you're enjoying the life down there in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that's not a green screen behind me. Luckily, it was sunny and beautiful this morning, and then as usually happens, the clouds rolled in off the Caribbean, and it rained for like 10 minutes, and then it's right back to this. So let me tell you guys, 85 and sunny doesn't suck, especially when it's getting cold and wet in Chicago.
Yeah, it's been a rough couple of weeks of weather here, so I am very, very jealous of you right now. But that's okay. I don't mind being inside right now because the crypto market is ripping. So, there's really no place I'd be other than in front of my screens right now anyway. So we got plenty to talk about today. Like I said, the NFTs as well. But John, I actually did want to talk to you today, now that we've got you on, about some of the crypto related equities as well. Lots of people in our community have been speculating on those, perhaps looking at some options that are expiring around end of year. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that as well. But yeah, before we dive into it, how are you guys doing today, CJ?
I'm doing good. I also want to ask Doc a question having to do with kind of the equity market, the Fed meeting today and tomorrow. And I believe we do get that jobs report as well. So a lot of really interesting stuff happening that could impact price. That TNX 10-year treasury yields are still relatively flat this morning prior to that meeting. So that's definitely something that could affect the equity market as well as crypto and Bitcoin. But I'm interested to get more into that as well. But I'm doing good, Monty. How are you guys?
I'm doing well. And thank you for that, CJ. I've been watching, of course, as I always do, the volatility of Bitcoin because it's a harbinger of volatility in the other cryptos as well. And it is down from, just to give you folks an idea, from 4.4 beginning of October, almost 4.5 percent. That's a percentage. So you'd multiply that times 16 to get what the comparable volatility is in the S&P. So 4.4 times 16, that was about a 71 vol just October 6th. Here we are the 2nd of November, and we're pushing down towards the low of the year. So a lot of the trades that you guys have been working on with Todd and the gang on our crypto hedge fund have worked out spectacularly well. So that much of a drop, folks, is it's not unprecedented at all, but 3.2 right now is a 51. The low for the year is 2.75, and that was back right around the time Musk was going on to Saturday Night Live in April. And that's Bitcoin. I understand it's not the same, but Bitcoin vol at 275 is very cheap. Right now we're at 3.22. And as always, when vols get low like this, whether it's the equities or whether it's Bitcoin or crypto related assets, I tend to be more into spreads in the options because they're cheap rather than in the coin itself and writing fat calls. So a lot of the fat calls that I've written against my own Bitcoin holdings, I have taken those calls off, bought them back because Bitcoin, of course, has moved up. So you make money on that side and the vol came down. It's one of those great things where you can make money on both sides. Doesn't always happen, believe me. And those of you who know and have been watching for a while know I started doing that spread when the volatility was 4% in Bitcoin, and then it went up to 4.4, 4.5. That might not seem like a lot, but it didn't feel good at the time, because even though Bitcoin was rising, I was getting hurt on the calls I wrote, um, more or less equaling each other out. But now, as both of them have worked out, Bitcoin to 63,000, vol back down here to 3.22 or 51, that's kind of like as good as it gets. So I love the way that we're setting up into year end, guys, and we'll have to see what other catalysts there are other than CJ, Zuckerberg, and the metaverse.
Yeah, and speaking of potential catalysts, how about tomorrow with that Fed meeting? Anything, I know, just last month, you predicted that there wouldn't be too much news coming out of the Fed, and the market continued to climb. Any thoughts on what we may see tomorrow and what that may mean for the market going forward?
Yeah, I would say that we will get. It's nearly 100%, as close as you can get to that 99% chance that the Fed does what they've already told us at the last Fed meeting, and that is that they will raise, or I'm sorry, not raise interest rates. I apologize. They will begin tapering at the December timeframe, not today, but in December. And then it'll be up to people to determine, when they hear from Fed Chair Powell, whether he sounds like he's nervous about inflation. To a certain extent, they'd like that, Monty. They'd like to hear that he's a little nervous about it rather than him just being dismissive of it. So I would bet that he will mention it, but he'll say that he believes that we can contain it, or something to that effect. He won't just say, oh, everything's fine. Who cares if inflation runs to 5-6%? He won't say that. So I think if he walks the walk the right way, more or less, the market will not react to it at all. But if he had a misstep, he's unlikely to do that right now, just ahead of his potential reappointment. But if he did have a misstep, number one, it would cause more volatility in the markets for sure, because then people say, we don't know what's going to happen next. He could be replaced. And he's already kind of swimming upstream, being a Republican that was appointed by a Republican president. And this president, Joe Biden, will have the opportunity then to pick somebody other than Powell, if Powell makes a mistake. If he doesn't make a mistake, I think he stays in.
CJ, at the top of the show, you mentioned the DXY and the 10-year Treasury yield. And historically, there's been a pretty interesting relationship between those indexes and Bitcoin's performance. Any idea what we may see, in terms of Bitcoin's price action if we get, what John was just predicting tomorrow?
Yeah, it could be a short-term bump in the road, because that's what we have seen historically when it comes to the TNX rising and kind of equities going risk off, as well as Bitcoin. We're at a point now where the supply shock is getting very influential over Bitcoin's price. We're seeing really nice supply absorption as we consolidate here near previous all-time highs. And one of the better strategies, or one of the more optimal strategies, is trading breakouts to new all-time highs, because likely many times we do see that bullish continuation. So I still think we will see that. You can see that we're still struggling with that critical 64 level, left from the previous all-time high. But I don't see us going below, 56K. I'm not going to rule out the potential that we could retest that level if an unfavorable meeting or outcome is to come out of that Fed meeting, as well as some of those reports coming later in the week, both Wednesday and Friday. But nonetheless, if we look at Bitcoin exchange reserves, we can still see a massive amount of coins leaving exchanges. In other words, being locked up for the foreseeable rest of the quarter. So, the supply shock is still intact. It's just, this could be a minor hurdle in the road if unfavorable outcome, occurs.
Yeah, CJ. And speaking to Bitcoin making those new all-time highs, I've been talking a lot about Bitcoin dominance and crypto total market cap. And historically, what we've seen is when Bitcoin makes those new all-time highs, it brings on the confidence that then propels those, lower cap altcoins into new all-time highs as well. And I think what's really interesting, I mentioned this chart yesterday, but today we are breaking out, is the crypto total market cap excluding Bitcoin. And this is one that, very big cup and handle forming here, but we had 1.5 trillion marked as a breakout level for this crypto total market cap. We are now at an all-time high for the crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin, which speaks to the maturity of the space really. And I think that this is a metric we can look to, and we can expect this same, continued exponential growth year over year. Because when you think about crypto in general and you think about Bitcoin, it definitely has a lot of tremendous advantages over other cryptos in terms of its size, in terms of its longevity, but really its utility is somewhat narrow when you compare it with the utility of a lot of these other tokens. And there is such a wide space of services that crypto can cover. It makes sense that Bitcoin isn't the be all end all for this utility. There are other tokens that serve lending and borrowing purposes or DeFi purposes. And as a result, that's driving this total market cap up. And I don't think, now that we're entering this end of the market cycle here, we're seeing these, downstream assets pump. It seems like we're entering this kind of new stage of the market cycle where 1.5 trillion could potentially be sort of the bottom. And we see, the altcoin market continue to grow. One last thing I'll say, and this is what we've been talking about kind of all week, is Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance is at the critical level of 44%. And I think that if we get what CJ was just talking about and we get that break above 64K for Bitcoin on the back of that supply shock, even though Bitcoin's would be making new all-time highs in this scenario, I would anticipate Bitcoin dominance to fall below 44%, perhaps come down to retest this highly critical level of 40%. And like I said earlier, Bitcoin can go up, can be making new all-time highs while Bitcoin dominance still falls. And that would be on the back of, Bitcoin bringing in that confidence, bringing in that risk on attitude that allows those higher beta altcoins to perform tremendously well. So it seems like we're getting close to that point when you take into consideration the total market cap, Bitcoin dominance, also the fact that we are approaching previous all-time highs on Bitcoin with this element of supply shock. So lots to consider, but basically the takeaway here is I think that now is a good time to be looking at the alts. We've been talking a lot about, perhaps lightening up on Bitcoin and ETH or other, higher cap assets and looking downstream. I think we're getting close to that point in time. We're not quite there yet. But with Bitcoin being on the verge of all-time highs, it does seem like that point is just around the corner here.
Well, and to your point, Monty, gosh, we've had a number of coins breaking out. One that looks like it's ready to, this will not be a huge surprise to anybody, is FTX, because, FTX was about 65 back at the end of October. It broke all the way down to about 57. That might not seem like a lot, but obviously there was some profit taking by some whales at that level from 65 on down. Now it looks like they're coming back in. So with that coin at about 59, CJ and Monty, I show volume in the last 24 hours up over 30% just in the last 24 hours. So I would look for FTX to try to reclaim those mid 60 levels from $59.20 or so where it is right now. But to your point, as far as those alts, my gosh, Polkadot, you guys nailed that. And that one has had just a fantastic run just in the last little bit here. It's outperforming everything of the big coins. It's outperforming everything but the former little coin that's now a big coin, Shiba, because Shiba's still hanging in there. But man, Mana is up 270%. It's up over $3 again. Sandbox 220%, up over 265. That's $2.65. So, boy, the alts have certainly taken the advantage of Bitcoin stabilizing and then people flipping out of Bitcoin, and perhaps as it fell back to 60 and 61,000, a lot of folks were flipped into USDC or whatever, and now they're chasing into a lot of these altcoins, which is a pattern you guys talk about all the time, and certainly it's played out here.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned some NFT plays there. Pete, your brother Pete Najarian, he goes to Target, does some boots on the ground retail research to see what people are shopping at. Now CJ did some virtual boots on the ground training last night as he ventured into some various metaverses. One of them being Sandbox, another being Mana, Decentraland. So both those two that you just mentioned. So CJ, curious to hear your thoughts on your first venture into the metaverse.
Yeah, I have explored Decentraland before, but it was years ago and not what they have now. Especially after all the money that they've gotten in funding and ability to actually improve their land. But what I was impressed by yesterday, and what I went and bought a little bit of, was Sand, otherwise known as the Sandbox. I think it's got a market cap of around 2 billion right now. And when you compare that to something like Decentraland or specifically Axie Infinity, which has a market cap of around 6 to 7 billion, it seemed a little bit undervalued based on what it could actually do. So, if you ever played Grand Theft Auto before or something, you kind of see this map. It looks pretty familiar. Each one of these parcels on the map is purchasable, and you can then cultivate that land, create spaces to perform various activities. You can build games on top of the land. So people, if they want to come visit your area or your territory, I guess, whatever you want to call it, they can partake in those activities and use sand as the currency to transact. So you've got a little deadhead logo. Obviously, Binance has been sponsoring a lot of this and buying up land here too. But personally, one of my favorite places to go in the Sandbox metaverse is right here, the Snoop Dogg land. And so I'm going to play you a little preview of what this entails. Anyways, I think you guys get the basic gist. But anyways, after seeing that, I had to buy some sand, so I did. But yeah, interesting stuff. I think relative to the game and the scope of actually what you can do in something like Sand is actually somewhat far greater than Axie Infinity. Not taking anything away from them, but just from a valuation perspective, I think they could have a little bit of catching up to do to Axie Infinity. But there's a lot of other interesting stuff to do or to take a look at. Like one thing I want to just share before we get into Doge of the day, and I was talking about Bitcoin supply shock earlier, but Monty, you always talk about ETH being the gateway to the alts. But Ethereum, we see something very similar that what we've seen in Bitcoin. We see a massive flow of Ethereum off of exchanges. And when we look and apply the supply shock not only to Bitcoin, but also to Ethereum, it shows that we've already made a new all-time high based on that supply shock indicator. And when we were showing signals in Bitcoin similar to this, they were followed by a lot of really bullish price action in the coming months. So I think this is really bullish for ETH, and I think that we're going to end up seeing 5,000 probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks, if not possibly even sooner if things really get interesting. But that's pretty much where we're at. Doge of the day, gentlemen.
Sure, I'll start us off. I think there's plenty of, like we've been saying, plenty of directions to look in. as we enter the end of the year here. I think altcoins, are going to perform tremendously well. CJ, you just talked about Ethereum and kind of the supply shock element of it. I think we're going to see lots of, you know, various cryptocurrencies that have that element of staking perform tremendously well. So you have assets like, like ETH, um, like Luna, like Solana, like even Cardano, which has been, underperforming to a very large extent. But I think all of these assets with those very strong supply and demand mechanics are set up to perform tremendously well here as we, start the month of November. But I'm going with a little bit more of a true Doge of the day today, and I want to talk about StormX, STMX. And StormX is one that, full disclosure, I've held for quite a while now. But I've, really liked the long-term value proposition of StormX. We talk about this impending influx of retail traders, and one thing that retail traders love is clear-cut utility, and StormX definitely has that. It is a token where you can get cash back. Basically, you can fire up the app and make your purchases on any website, through the app, and you'll get crypto back for those purchases. So whenever I buy something on eBay, like I buy, my cards or my shoes or whatever, I'll do it through StormX and I'll get some crypto back. And you can choose which crypto you get it back. I choose to get mine back in StormX, but also they just unveiled it yesterday. Well, they didn't just unveil it, but they just released it to the public, the waiting list for their debit card. So you'll be able to use the debit card to purchase things, out in the real world and get that crypto back in real time. So really interesting stuff. Also, we talk about how important partnerships are. They have some very, very good partnerships, not just in terms of the companies that you can make purchases with, but their sponsors as well. The Portland Trailblazers, for the entirety of this season, they will have the StormX logo on the front of their jerseys. And yeah, I mean, StormX during this period of time, when it traveled up to 10 cents here, it saw a huge amount of speculation, obviously. Huge amount of StormX was staked as well. And that goes back to what we were just talking about with those sort of staking mechanics. You can stake StormX through the app as well to earn up to, I think, 12% APY. So this does have a really nice element of, supply being locked up as well. And I think we saw that last week when we got this liquidation event. We came down to retest this critical level of about 25 cents. And it seemed like buyers were willing to step in. I think our downside was kind of mitigated by the fact that a significant amount of this token is currently being staked for that APY. So we're breaking back above the 20-period smooth moving average. With that debit card release happening yesterday, I think it is looking, pretty good here for StormX. So that is going to be my Doge of the day today.
I already gave you guys one, the FTX token. Another that's picking up volume pretty fast is Pancake Swap. Symbol, of course, is just cake. It's pretty easy. I think you probably see it push into the low 19s, like 1920 or so from 1850. So if you're somebody who trades in and out like I do, I'll do that all day if I think I can flip for 50 or 75 cents on a $19 asset. So that's mine. Volume's up to about 305 million in the last 24 hours. That's about 10% increase. So cake is my second Doge of the day.
Yeah, pretty much I've been looking at assets that are just consolidating near their previous all-time highs. Good example is Luna, Solana, AVAX, a lot of the alts that we've talked about that have really been resilient. Omise Go has been another sleeper that has really increased a lot and is now consolidating near those previous all-time highs. But something I did talk about briefly last week on the cocktail hour in terms of Bitcoin-related equities had to do with BTBT. And this is Bit Digital. They are a miner. Their options, I'm not going to say they're cheap, but they are less expensive than, say, an option for a more established miner, something like Riot or Mara. And so I think that was one of the primary reasons we did see a lot of Wall Street Bets traders come in here back in October and really push this thing all the way from 50 cents to about $30. So quite a move there. On Friday, we saw a close and a move of 40% in a very short amount of time. Today and yesterday, we've kind of seen a little bit of consolidation followed by a little bit of bullish movement. But that's what I'm going to be looking at for kind of longer term call options as a potential flyer if the retail Reddit crowd is to come in and pump that one again. But BT is one I've been looking at in terms of the equities as well.
All right, very interesting. Thank you for that. And as always, CJ and I will be hanging out in the crypto room. So if you guys are looking for a place to come chat crypto, chart crypto, learn about crypto, we are in there pretty much 24/7. We would love to hang out with you. And you can try it for just $7 for the first week at marketrebellion.com/try crypto. Very exciting time here to close the year. So now more than ever is a great time to educate yourself. We have an extensive education curriculum with all the tools you'll need to capitalize on this end of year mania here. And if you guys are looking for a broker to trade your crypto, we recommend you head over to investvoyager.com where you can trade 60 plus assets commission free. Dot, which is making new all-time highs today, you can earn up to 12% interest on that for just holding it through the app and 10% on assets like USDC. So if you head over there, use code REBEL25 when you sign up for $25 free in crypto. But that is all we got for today. Special announcement, tomorrow we will be doing a webinar with AJ Monty at Market Close. The Option Oracle will be kind of demystifying crypto. We'll be looking at some things to look out for at the end of the year as signs of taking profit when these assets are losing some momentum, and perhaps even some methods to hedge your risk as we enter into the end of the year here. So really, really looking forward to that. That'll be tomorrow at Market Close, and that is available to all of our crypto members. We'd love to have you there. Any parting words for our audience before we sign off today, boys?
No, it's a good time to be trading right now. We've had good solid moves out of the alts guys, and obviously more and more adoption coming. Certainly, it's been great over at Voyager as the stock has nearly doubled since the lows of just over a week ago. So bang! I'm not touting the stock. I'm just saying, full disclosure, I'm long the stock. I think both of Monty and CJ are, as well as perhaps the tokens, and it's good to see.
Yeah, I'm long the tokens, that's for sure. But I think only closing words I would have is just pay attention to the Fed. If we get any sell-offs, make sure you're in tune with that news and what's going on over there, because we do have some news coming out of there as well as reports throughout the rest of the week. But other than that, I think we're looking very bullish in terms of like the weekly outlook. And like John said, I think it's a great time to be trading. And, I hope you guys have a wonderful day in the world wherever you are.
See you guys tomorrow. Take care.